Hello students, in this session we will see formatted and unformatted input and output statements and few example programs. Learning objective is that you'll be able to learn the syntax of input and output statements and also the syntax and the usage of formatted and unformatted input and output statements. After learning this session, you will be able to write simple programs using this IO statements. You should have learned the first unit before coming to this session. Jumping into main content, we first see formatted and unformatted output statements. Formatted output in C is done using printf statement. Printf syntax is like this: printf in double inverted comma, format specifiers, comma, variables. This variables is optional, format specifiers is mandatory. Format specifiers would contain either characters that will be printed on the screen as they appear. You can just say printf hello world and close it, or else it can also contain format specifiers that define the output format for the display of each item. If you want to display the value of variable, say variable 1, and if it is of integer type, you can say %d. D stands for the variable of integer type. Similarly, if the variable 1 is a float type, then you could say %f. F stands for float. We'll see that in a moment. Or else it can also contain escape characters. We'll see it in the next few slides. A simple format specification is the following form: %n dot d data type. N is an integer that specifies the total number of columns for the output value. Here, if you say %5d, then that 5 denotes the total number of columns or the total number of digit spaces for the output value. D specifies that it is a decimal value. For float, it's f. Types of formatted outputs are integer output, real number output, that is floating point output, character or string output, and then mixed mode output. We'll see each of them. Integer output. Here the format specifier, if you want to output any integer from the variable, then the format specifier should be %n d format, wherein n specifies the minimum field width for the output. We'll see a few examples on this. It will be clear. In case the number being printed is greater than the specified width, say if you are saying the %2d in the format specifier and you are trying to print the value of variable 1 which has a value 100, then the number 100 is greater than the specified width. Width specified is 2, but whereas 100 occupies 3 digits. Then if the number is greater, then that will override the minimum field width that is defined inside this format specifier, that is percentage 2d. Thus 100 will be properly printed. If at all, if the variable 1 contains 1, then here is percentage 2d, then there are two spaces available for printing a digit, but the value of variable 1 is only 1, so other one will be left blank. Thus the number 1 would be printed with a right justification. We'll see these things in a moment. So let us understand that using this example. So let us consider that int a equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Then if printf percentage d a is there, then the output will be 1, 2, 3, 4. But if your printf contains a format specifier as percentage 6d, it means that there is a 6-digit space to print a, but a contains only 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces are enough. So this will be right justified, and the left spaces will be empty. Then if the format specifier is percentage 2d, but a contains 1, 2, 3, 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 needs 4-digit space, but whereas it is saying just 2-digit space, since the number is greater than this, it will override this format specifier and it will print properly 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming to this next printf statement, this printf statement has minus 6d. Minus says that it should be left justified. Thus there will be 6-digit spaces allocated, but our a is 1, 2, 3, 4 only, so it needs 4-digit spaces. It will be left justified since because of minus. Thus you will see 2 blank spaces at the right side. If the format specifier is percentage 0, 6d, then it will be right justified, but at the preceding blank spaces 0 would be appended. If it is minus 0, 6d, then at the right blank spaces 0 would be appended. Thus, to forcefully left justify printing, if you want to left justify, then use minus sign. To print long integer and long integer is much more greater number. For printing that, instead of percentage d, you can use percentage ld. For real numbers, the format specifier is percentage n dot df. Here n is the maximum number of positions that are used for displaying the whole part of the value. That is nothing but including your numbers before the decimal point and numbers after the decimal point. Combining both of them, the maximum number of positions that could be allowed is n. Whereas the d indicates the number of digits to be displayed after the decimal point. So let us consider an example. If float a equals 23.7654, then if we have a printf statement wherein the format specifier is 7.4f, It means that there are total 7 positions available for the numbers before the decimal point and also the numbers after the decimal point. So it means that you can have 4 numbers after the decimal point, right? 7654 could be there, and this 23 combinedly there are total 7 spaces available. 23 will be here, dot will be here, 7654, total 7 spaces. Whereas for the second printf, here you have 7.2 f. So the numbers after the decimal should be 2 only. So it has to be round off. This 7654, if you round off to the 2 decimal points, then it will be 77 because 5 is there here. Anything more than 5 would make this the preceding digit 1 higher. Thus 77 would be here and 23 will be there, 23.77, right? Thus it has 7 spaces, but it will be right justified 23.77, and left side you have 2 blank spaces. If you put minus 7.2 f, then it will be left justified. So these are different format specifiers available for printf, even as well as for scanf. %C is for single character, %D is for decimal integer, %F is for floating point without an exponent, right? So %S is for string. These are all the format specifiers available for different data types. So now let us see input statements, formatted and unformatted input statements. Formatted input in C is done using scanf function. Syntax is like this: scanf in the round brackets, in double inverted commas, format specifiers, comma, arguments. Format specifiers specify the data type of the variable to be read. Scanf is for input statement, is a kind of input statement. So if you are reading something from the user, then if you are expecting an integer type, then format specifier should have an integer format specifier. If you are expecting a float from the user, then format specifier should have a float type. We'll see this in a moment, right? The arg1, arg2, all these could be the variables wherein the data keyed in by the user would be sitting or stored into these variables. Format specifier consists of percentage, then a data type character, either D for integer, F for float, C for character, S for string, an optional number specifying the input width. We'll see these things in a moment. Let us see integer input format specifiers. Integer input format specifiers is written with a percentage ND, where D specifies that it is an integer, whereas N specifies the input width for the integer data to be read. For example, if int a comma b is there, we can say scanf %D in double inverted commas and comma ampersand a comma ampersand b. So a and b would be put the integer values that are entered by the user. Real number input. For this, you have to use a percentage of. because it contains the decimal point, floating point numbers. Right? So this percentage f is used for reading the decimal notations as well as the exponent like notations also. We'll see this example here. Let's say float ABC is there and you are saying scanf percentage f percentage f percentage f and then comma ampersand a comma ampersand b and comma ampersand c, and if the user gives the input as 123.45 space 56.78 e raised to minus 1 space 9012, then the scanf will read these values. This is a floating point, this is a floating point, this is a floating point. It will read these values and appropriately put the values, right? So this A would contain 5, A would contain 123.45, your B would contain, this is e raised to minus 1, right? So the point can be shifted to the left, 5.678, and then your C would contain 9012. And character input, scanf function is used for this also, for a single character also you can use, or if you are trying to read multiple characters, that is a string also, we can use scanf function. If you are using for a character, you can use the format specifier as %NC for characters, %NS for strings. %NC reads data from the keyboard into a variable defined as character, right? Then %NS reads data from the keyboard into a character array defined earlier in the program. You can say these are the format specifiers, and after that comma %A, that A would be defined as char A in the top of the program. And similarly, if you are reading for a string, scanf in double inverted comma %NS comma ampersand C. This C would be defined as a character array, char left square bracket right square bracket C, so that it can hold a character set, that is it can hold a string. Example is character A comma B. So now you are trying to read two characters A and B. Mixed mode input, scanf can also be used to read the mixed mode input, that is if you are trying to read one integer value, one float value, another character value, we can say format specifiers as this %D, %F, %C in double inverted commas, and then corresponding variables. Since you are using integer here, so integer type of variable is there, float is here, thus float type of variable is there. Similarly, character type variable is here. So if a user enters properly these things, it will put integer into A, floating point into B, character into C. If at all, if sometimes user mismatches, or if he instead of entering an integer here, if he enters a float value first, then the scanf will immediately terminate any further reading and return the values already read to the program. So let us recap whatever we have learnt in this session. Formatted output in C is done using the printf statement. Syntax is printf, format specifiers. This is a syntax for formatted input in C is done using scanf function. The syntax is like this. References are these 4 different books. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.